The year is 899, and a new king on the throne is Edward. Welcome to episode 7. To pretty much everyone in the Kingdom of Wessex in the year 899, it was evident that Edward was going to succeed King Alfred, and indeed, he did succeed King Alfred. However, the one person that was not obvious to was Ethelwald, who was the son of King Ethelred, namely Alfred's brother and predecessor, who claimed the throne when Edward acceded in the same year. Ethelwald rebelled and went to Northumbria and garnered some Danish support there and invaded England. Things came to a head in the year 902 at the Battle of the Holm. Edward was able to kill Ethelwald, which was useful to him, meant his throne was secure, even though more Anglo-Saxons died on that field than Danes did. So now that his throne was secure in the year 902, Edward was able to make Alfred's dream of an England more of a reality than it was. And he did quite a lot of that. It was quite subtle, quite quiet in comparison to what Alfred did and indeed what Edward's son Aethelstan would do to further England. But his achievements are still quite significant nonetheless. So he beat the Danes again at the Battle of Tettenhall in 910, which is near modern-day Wolverhampton, which weakened the Danish hold on their parts of Mercia, and kind of meant that the Danes weren't really going to invade again for quite a while. This peace, essentially, Wessex peace, allowed Edward to conquer the kingdom of East Anglia, which was again a Danish kingdom but was quite weak in itself. And it's just quite noticeable to see how much the tables had turned. You compare it to the 960s and the 970s, sorry, the 860s and the 870s, when, Wessex was on the ropes, and now the Danish kingdoms are very much on the ropes. Possibly as a result of the Battle of Tettenhall, the Lord of Mercia at the time, Ethelred, who was married to Ethelfled, namely Edward's sister and Alfred's eldest daughter, Ethelred, he died of wounds, possibly. And Ethelfled, as a result, was made the Lady of Mercia and was governing Mercia by herself, essentially, which was really useful for England because both Edward and Ethelfled continued Alfred's burgh-building programme. Indeed, Ethelfled conquered the 5 boroughs, namely Nottingham, Stamford, Leicester, Lincoln and Derby in the years 917 and 918, to do just that, to create burghs there, to rid of the Danish threat and presence, and push them back further northwards. So that was highly successful. Ethelfled herself died in the year 918, and Edward quite cunningly united the crowns of Wessex and Mercia, and indeed East Anglia together, which clearly shows that England was certainly a step closer. And I think that's probably Edward's greatest achievement, was putting England very much nearly on the map, to the fact where Aethelstan could essentially complete it when he became king after Edward's death in 924. Edward married 3 times, first to Egwin, who was the mother of Aethelstan, but this marriage was done either secretly or indeed not at all, which would obviously make Aethelstan illegitimate. And we'll find out how that impacted the start of his reign when we get to his podcast. But he was essentially made to put Egwin aside because he married her, or was with her, before he became king in the year 893. But when he became king, he married a noblewoman, Elfled, and she gave him another male heir. So as I said, that would probably cause some contention when we get to the next podcast. And then cast Elfled aside, I think in 910 or thereabouts, and married a lady called Ilkfu, daughter of an ealdorman of Kent, who would produce 2 more male heirs, although this time these 2 male heirs would become kings in their own right, namely Edmund, who would succeed Aethelstan, and Edred, who would succeed Edmund. So as you can see, there's not as much on Edward the Elder, who is called incidentally the Elder purely to distinguish him from other Edwards that would come after, before the Norman conquest, namely Edward the Martyr and Edward the Confessor. So there's not too much on Edward in comparison to Alfred and Aethelstan, but I don't think that should diminish the quality of achievements. He's not quite good enough to be called the Great, I don't think, but as I said at the beginning, his sort of subtle way of bringing about England, Mercia's under control, East Anglia's under Wessex control, was quite remarkable. And I think it's a shame that he is as historically neglected as he has been. I hope you found that podcast informative, and I will see people for the next podcast on his son, King Ethelstan.